Before I embarrass myself. All righty.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we got no.
Y'all ready?
I'll talk to you about it back there. I'll talk to you about it.
Good evening, everybody. It is 5:32. I'm 2 minutes late, sorry. It is 5:32. Are there any public comments? There being none, if the board didn't mind, it's been placed on my heart, if we could just take a moment of silence for the student that we lost this week. Thank you. All righty. This meeting is being called to order. Roll call.
Dr. Redis.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Carson West.
Present.
Ms. Temple.
Here.
Mr. Steele. Ms. Swanson.
Here.
Executive closed session per North Florida School District Policy 1.14A stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment, if requested by the parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106(2)(c)(1) states, the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in executive session for discussing the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, or resignation of an employee.
Read it out. timekeeper.
Ah,
All right. We are back in session. I'll entertain a motion.
Oh,
Madam
I
President?
accept. Go ahead.
I so move that we accept the employment of personnel that Dr. Paluski
Second.
recommended.
second.
It has been moved and second that we accept the employment of personnel. Being that it's personnel, there can be no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Madam
Aye.
President,
Any opposed? It has been adopted. We are down to informational items, which is the Zone 6 Board of Education candidate interviews. The names are on here in alphabetical order. However, beside your name, there is a number. And so who goes first is based on when we pull your number out. You have up to, you don't have to use the whole 5 minutes, but you will have up to 5 minutes to address the board. Then we have some questions for you, and then when you answer your questions, and then we'll go to the next person. Got it? All righty. So let me put my little phone up here to make sure you don't go over your 5 minutes. Mr. Superintendent, would you mind? We have number 3, and number 3 is David McCormick.
What do you mean? Shall I come to that?
yes, sir,
Yes.
please do. Welcome, Mr. McCormick.
Thank you, sir. I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck to go first.
Set the tone, set the tone.
There you go.
Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board, thank you very much for allowing me to come before you today and discuss why I'd like to be selected for the Zone 6 position. My family moved to Arkansas about 3.5 years ago. And prior to the move, we decided to make education, and more specifically the school system, a cornerstone as to where and why we moved. My wife and I made a list of the schools that we were looking at for our children. We were looking in places like Fort Smith, Hot Springs, Little Rock, North Little Rock, other places. And we called the principals, we scheduled interviews, and essentially we interviewed the schools. We feel that the school should be a reflection of the community, and the community should be supportive of their schools, and that the school board serves the community. And there's a lot of community out there for us to work with and to build with. We have 2 students in elementary school right now. It's a long time left in the district. It's a lot of possibility for partner building and continual support throughout the community. I recognize and understand that metric-based evaluations like test scores are important. However, our family likes to focus on something else, on doing your best and modeling a continued pursuit of knowledge. And this acknowledges that there are different approaches and different abilities to each situation and to every environment. And that's what I have for you today, to do my best in each situation and in every environment. I don't have a background in education, but my talents and my experience, I think, would be an advantage for this board. I believe education is a right, and a quality education is something worth working for. Now, whether I'm selected by this board to fill the position or not, it won't change the fact that I will continue to advocate for equitable education and against those constraints, those social constraints that prevent it. However, if selected, I look forward to collaborating with the board and to working to ensure that the mission is enacted for all the stakeholders and that we pursue that vision of world-class schools for world-class students. Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we do have some questions.
Can you go first? I didn't know if we were going in order for those. So I've got a 2-part question. Tell me about your experiences within the school district thus far. So in the last 2 months, can you give me a few examples of what's been going on in our school district?
In the school district itself or
Yes.
specifically? Okay. Well, my focus has been on the elementary school, that which my children attend. I am active in the school, sitting on the PTA board. I've also got to know some of the school board staff, not so much this, but through some other areas, through just conversations and moving things forward with some of the initiatives. I understand that the school board is changing the way they're doing things for the next year. I know that there's a lot of discussion about virtual school, what happened, how Pearson worked last year, and what they're looking forward to in the next year. I also understand that there's some restructuring going on with some of the positions, and I think that sums up a little bit of the past couple of months.
Okay. So the second part of that question is, what experiences and assets will you bring to the school board?
That's a great question, right? So what experiences and assets will you bring? Well, I think one of the important things that board members have is the ability to listen, right? And sometimes listening is just the most important thing, especially as we continue to serve the community. Some of the assets I have will be my experience, having been, and it'll say on my resume, having been trained in nonprofit boards, having experience through working for different companies, and a recent MBA graduate, which can bring for budgeting and other understandings of how the processes can go. And to be flexible is kind of what we're looking for here. So I think those are a few of them. I could probably dive down a little bit more if you needed, but.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Steele, is there a question?
Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
I like that one as well. I want the schools to be safe so that the kids can be safe, so that they can have an opportunity to get an education without any type of constraints, without any type of obstacles and borders, right? And so the big involvement I have now is through the Watchdog Dads program, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It just closed, didn't survive COVID, so we're moving to something else. And one of the main things that we did is some of y'all remember a year or so ago there were some specific threats to the schools. And a lot of times when people were pulling children out, that's when the dads stepped up. Because it's, like I said, education is a right. And your child and every child has a right to come to school and feel safe, and has a right to come and to be presented with the opportunity to learn. And so that's one of the big issues I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rickett?
What should be the relationship between the superintendent and the board?
Well, the board.
Board?
Yeah, I understand.
Superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. I understand. The superintendent works for the board. The board hires the superintendent. The chain of command, the authority goes from board to superintendent. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Ms. Angela?
All right, good evening again. What issues do you believe our district needs to address in its academic program and offerings?
The academic program.
That's the first one.
Okay. And offerings.
And offerings.
I think data would show that most employers these days value and look for students and applicants who have higher critical thinking and data analysis skills. I think that is something that this school district and every school district across the United States could work on. How to develop and train those critical thinking skills, which lead to the data analytics, which lead to what will probably be the jobs of the future as we move to automation. But it's a different story for afterwards if we want to talk about that.
Got you. And my second part of that question would be, what changes would you recommend?
What changes would I recommend? I feel like that's a loaded question,
It's not
right?
just- It's really not, like, but what changes do you think that you could suggest? Or, you know, how do you see things?
I think that I appreciate that question. I think that I'm going to answer that question by saying I think the first thing I would do would be evaluate the different areas. I recognize the fact that I'm one person from one potential zone and I don't know all that. And I think it could be a little difficult to say that there's this one hot button thing I would change all of a sudden. So I will admit my limitations and show that that is actually an opportunity to kind of learn and grow.
Thank you.
Will your personal and professional commitments allow you to attend monthly meetings, which are held at the first and third Thursdays of each month, and they're usually 2 hours long, sometimes a little longer? We've been here to midnight before.
No, we have.
Well, I will say work from home is a new thing for a lot of people, but that has been my history. I am, if selected, extremely flexible. I will be honest up front, because of the time frame in which this position was released, the next meeting in June, the final meeting in June, I will not be able to attend in person. However, if there are virtual setups, I can easily attend virtually. But that's because I wasn't able to schedule around something that's not finite.
Okay.
And then there's something I just want to, I'm not sure exactly how to ask this question, but, you know, we have a lot of competing interests in the school district.
Agendas,
like,
yeah.
You know, extracurricular and the academics and just different, you know, teachers' interests, students' interests. There's just tons of competing interests, and all of it is very important.
Absolutely.
But something has to rise to the top.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering.
How would I rank the entrance?
What rises to the top for you?
So it's the students, right? It's every student, independent of the zone in which I'm in, but it is that quality education across the board, right? And I recognize hard decisions have to be made from that. And there's a through line of the community, because the neighbor down the road may not have students there at the school now, right? But they will. So we work at the students, and happy students, educated students come from happy staff, motivating the faculty, motivating the staff, ensuring that they have the resources that they need, or at least fighting to have the resources that they need. So we're looking at students, faculty, staff, with that through line of community.
Okay, thank you.
So, final question.
Yes, ma'am.
As we consider you for this position, what differentiates?
Differentiate.
Thank you. You from all the other candidates. Why should we pick you?
Why should you pick me? Well, you have the inside scoop of all the other candidates, right? And so I don't know who they are, but I think I said it. I'll do my best in every situation, in every environment. So you know, at this point, my motivation is for the students, and my motivation is to do the best. I don't come with an agenda. I don't come with some predisposed plan of anything. I'm in it for the students. And so that is for you to decide through experience, right, as to whether I get to tell the truth in that or not. So, but yeah,
Thank you very much for your time.
thank you, board.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Here's the envelope. Alrighty. Number 5, which is. Oh, number 5. Ms. Diane, is it? Pronounce your last name. Is it Reese?
Reese,
Reese.
like the candy.
Alrighty.
Welcome, Ms. Reese.
I'll start the clock. There you go.
Madam President, Board, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to all speak. That's going to be a hard one to follow there. As a parent of a student in elementary school and as a wife of a fellow teacher and coach in the middle school, I have a unique perspective of the district because I get to see it from the parent's perspective as well as the spouse's perspective. And I know that we've got some struggles that we need to work towards. And my dad is probably my hero, is recently decided to run for state representative of Missouri. And in seeing him step up to help out his community, I was inspired when I saw the position open to go, you know what? I have an opportunity to step up and help. And that's what I want to do. That's why I'm here. As an instructional developer, it is my job to ask the tough questions. People come to me with a perceived training need, and I get to help them break down and really understand the root cause of why they feel they need training. Through that unique perspective, I hope to bring that expertise to the board in helping to solve the complex problems that you guys struggle with on a regular basis. Because there is no one-size-fits-all solution for any of the struggles that constantly are changing in the economy, the world, the local community. So I hope to bring that unique perspective from a trained professional that looks at performance, that looks at education. Just a vast majority of reasons that could be causing a potential problem. Or even something that's working really well. How can we continue to make that work? And so there's that evaluation process that comes in. And bringing that all in, I think, fits really well with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember
Okay.
to stop at this time. All right.
So we all have the same questions, so we're gonna go through each one again. Two-part question. Tell us a little bit about your experience within the school district. So name 2 to 3 experiences that you know that have happened within our district in the last 2 months.
I think the one that shocked me the most was when Coach Rice resigned, seeing how successful he was with the basketball program. And my husband has looked up to him as a basketball coach, has really respected him and enjoyed working with him. And so that was a huge shocker to see him just walk away from a district that he loves so much. And it made me question why. Seeing the amount of turnover that we're seeing with teachers and losing the number of teachers. We have some phenomenal teachers in this district.
Agreed.
And watching them walk away is really concerning, because without teachers, we have no district. We can't teach our students. If we can't keep substitute teachers in the classroom. I know in the middle school, substitutes come and then they walk out in the middle of the day. And our kids are not getting a solid education if that continues to happen. I'm trying to think of a third one. A positive experience is at Crestwood. I don't know what I would do without the extended day program in the summer and at the end of school. Miss Tammy does a phenomenal job with that program, and it's one of the reasons why I think most of the teachers in the district choose Crestwood to place their students.
Okay. Second part of that is, what experiences and assets will you bring to the school board?
Well, I did spend a year on a nonprofit board for the American Childhood Cancer Organization of Arkansas until it dissolved, unfortunately. The goal was to bring funding to families of children struggling with cancer so that they didn't have to worry about some of the everyday expenses. And so having that board experience, I think, helps in understanding how boards work. And as I mentioned, having the background in instructional design, my master's is in education. Granted, it's not secondary education, but an emphasis on learning systems technology and distance learning. And I have just a strong passion for learning. It's the cornerstone of our society. It affects our crime rate. It affects, just everything. So I'm very passionate about our learning and continuing to learn myself.
Very good.
Tracy.
You already mentioned your dad was running for state representative, but what's that one issue that's you said, hey, it's time, I'm going to run?
I really think it was realizing that the teacher turnover rate was 54% in the district, which is well above the average. And just knowing what the teachers are up against, having to set up Amazon wish lists so that they can have the supplies that they need for their classrooms. Watching my husband come out of pocket to feed kids on his teams because they don't have the food that they need, or providing snacks at track meets or basketball games. Our teachers need our support, and it's become very evident.
What should be the relationship between the superintendent and the board?
I think it should be a collaborative one. Obviously the superintendent has a very important job, and the board is responsible for his performance, but it has to be of collaboration and understanding and cooperation.
Thank you.
What changes would you recommend?
Without actually digging in and understanding the root causes, it's hard to determine what changes actually need to happen. Seeing only things kind of at a surface level, not really having the full picture. I could possibly suggest certain things, but I just don't have enough knowledge about the full dynamic to really say.
And what issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic program and offerings?
Again, I would need to do a little bit more digging and understanding. I know that at Crestwood, there's a really solid, all the teachers there are amazing. And then resources, I think, are a huge problem within, no matter what curriculum we're teaching, if we can't give our students the resources that they need, how much are they able to actually learn? When my husband was teaching health, he had one set of books that he had to move from one classroom to the next. The students didn't have their own health book. And so I can only imagine what other classrooms have those struggles. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What about offerings? Like, is there something that you could say that maybe should be offered that is not, that you could see?
I don't know at this time.
Okay, that's fair. That's all I have.
Okay. And will your personal and professional commitments allow you to attend monthly meetings, which are held the first and third Thursday each month and typically last 2 hours long?
Yes, the only month I may have an issue is October.
Okay. And then my competing interest question. Did you understand what I was asking before? Like,
Can you repeat it?
well, there's just a lot of competing interests. A lot of very important things happen, but sometimes, you can't address all of them. So I'm wondering what rises to the top as the number one concern when there's competition on.
When there's competition, I think there's various tactics within meetings and trying to understand where the focus needs to be. And as long as the board can remain collaborative and have that understanding that we can't tackle everything. So, I look at things from a systems design approach. And when you can see the bigger picture and understand that, if we can focus on this one thing, it could correct all of these other things that we're concerned about. So it's a matter of brainstorming together and creating that cooperation and understanding what is that one thing that's going to have the biggest ripple.
Thank you.
Dr. Reddish, real quick, I just have one other quick question I just thought about that I think that should be kind of important, but how are you with confidentiality?
I used to work in an HR role, and so confidentiality is not a problem.
So it ends with me. So as we consider you for the position, I'm not gonna mess up that word again, so I'm just gonna put it this way. What about you stands out different, that you feel would be different or better than everyone else? So we would pick you.
Well, I don't know about better. I mean, I think we all have our own unique talents and perspectives that we can bring to a situation. I think for me, I'm always looking for the answer. I pride myself in trying to solve problems. It's what I enjoy doing. It's why I'm an instructional developer. And so I almost get like a dog after a bone in trying to get to the answer when there is a problem to solve. I probably drive my husband crazy with that, but I think it's one of my greatest strengths.
Thank you very much.
You're much louder at the games. Good to see you.
What's the number?
It is number 4, Miss McLean. All right, come on down.
Welcome, Ms. McLean.
Thank you very much. It's good to see all of y'all tonight. Do I have a 5-minute
Yes.
right now? I don't know if I'll use that 5 minutes, but it's good to see all of you on the board tonight. Just to give you a little background on where I'm coming from is, I think it's similar from what I just heard from Ms. Reese. I come from a family that was very community-oriented. My mom played organ at the church. She was very involved in PTA. My dad was in the Lions Club. He was served on the school board. And so I grew up with that just being natural, that we served in the community. And that has continued in my professional life also. My late husband was an administrator for special education. We went to Marianna, and we lived in Marianna, Arkansas for 10 years. And he was head of a federal program for early childhood education for handicapped students, special ed needs. And one of the memories I have from there is that there was a family that lived out in the country, which is not unusual in Marianna. They had a student that was in a wheelchair bound. And his program paid to have a ramp built for that family, for that house. And this was years ago, but it impacted them greatly. That family continued over the next 10 years to come by and see my late husband and tell him how much they appreciated that. You don't realize how you impact lives. I know, fast forward to North Little Rock, and I was the summer school librarian for a few summers. And we have students that obviously they failed and they're there for credit. And so I would go around when they were in the library and I'd ask them, why are you here in summer school? And most of the time it was because they missed enough days that they didn't get the credit. And a lot of them, they were just skipping school or playing hooky. But some of the situations that these kids told me about were just, it boggled my mind. It was incredible. And I know that we have teachers that impact the lives of these students that we have and the backgrounds that they come from and the situations that they're in. I said my library was like, if it had been an emergency room, there would be blood and guts everywhere and broken bones because we had students that just had such needs in their life and were dealing with so many things. But that's my approach. I mean, we're here to serve our students, and we have to meet them where they are. We have to go individually to each of them and take them where they are. We can worry about where they came from, what's been happening, but we have to take them where they are and try to move them forward. And that's where I come from.
Two-part question. So the first one is, tell us a little bit about your experiences within the school district. So in the last 2 months, can you give me 2 or 3 experiences or things that have happened within our district?
Well, one of the most elegant has been the Night of Honors. I'm a member of the North Little Rock School District Retired Employees Association, and we had a table there, And that was an amazing night. Was that the second year that y'all have had that?
Yes.
I didn't go last year, but it was incredible. And to honor those teachers in that way was wonderful, because we know that we have a lot of dedicated teachers and administrators that don't get the recognition that they need, and that was just a wonderful, wonderful night for them. Also, I know that y'all are having the ACT Aspire, because my daughter is works for the district, and I know that's coming up right now, the ACT Aspire test. So everybody's on edge and ready to get that done. Also, I know that we had a North Little Rock School District retired employees meeting this past month, and we had a panel of principals from North Little Rock schools, because we try. That's our idea is that we support the North Little Rock schools, and so we heard from teachers there, from the principals there, that the Raptor system was coming, for example. That's about the school safety, which I'm always worried about school safety. So I know that the Raptor is coming. I just hope that we can still have happy, smiling faces with the people that greet the public when they come in the door, because I know when I've gone to the schools, now you buzz in, or you go through this process where you used to just walk into the school and hi, and have this nice, happy person there to greet you. So I hope that our secretaries can still stay that way after this system goes in place, because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but I've heard some of the details. But we have got to meet the public right there and present a good image to them, so they'll say, this is a great school. I would love for my kids to go there. They're nice, inviting, welcoming.
Second part to that is, what experiences and assets would you bring to the school board?
Well, I have served and am serving on the board of Lehman Library, and so that has given me a lot of great experience with boards. I also am very data-driven, and I know that we have a data-driven superintendent.
You think?
And I like that. When an issue comes up, I'm ready to tackle it and try to come to some sort of a resolution for that. And if that means we need to get out the data, the test scores, observations, research in the literature, spreadsheets, graphs, and take a look at that and see what's going on and try to figure out where we have this problem. I mean, I know right now that we have a problem when our students are going from elementary over to middle school. When we look at our data, we see there that we're losing a lot of students to other schools. And let's face it, I mean, we are in a very competitive environment. And parents have a lot of choices out there. They can choose the public schools, or they can go with academy, charter, homeschool, virtual school. Who knows what will be next. But we have to present ourselves so that we become the premier choice school for our families and our community.
Good job.
Tracy?
What was that one issue where you said, by golly, I'm just gonna do it?
There was an issue. I have grandchildren in this district, and back in September, my granddaughter, who's at the middle school, her math teacher resigned. And then like 2 weeks later, her science teacher resigned. And this is like October. Well, in the October North Little Rock School District Retired Employees Group, we had Dr. Paluski come and speak to us. And I mean, when I saw him come in the door, I just, made a beeline straight over there to him. Hi, I'm Valerie McLean, and I have a granddaughter, and she's got math and science teachers that have walked out the door. And so he empathized with me, but also said, we've got like 7 openings. I think it was at that time, in that building. And I'm like, this is crazy. That in October we still have these openings at that campus. And so that is the issue that drives me, the teachers. We've got to have teachers. We've got to retain teachers if we're going to achieve these goals that we have for academic performance. And we have the ADE puts out that report card every year where we all have a grade. Every school has a grade, not the whole district, each individual school. And so we've got to have teachers in the classroom with our students if we're going to achieve our academic goals.
Should I tell you we had a substitute for one of those classes all year long?
You can tell me that, yes. It doesn't make me happy, but you can tell me that, yes.
I do have kids in the district, I get it.
Yes.
Ms. Dorothy?
Okay. Did you ask, what should be the relationship between the superintendent and the board?
Well, the board hires that superintendent, so that superintendent works for the board and the district. And we have to hold him accountable. We hope that he's going to accomplish all the goals that we're wanting him to accomplish. But we have to evaluate him as we go along. And also, he has to do the same thing. He has to hold the central office administration and the administrators out in the different schools. He has to hold them accountable as they hold their teachers accountable. And that's the way I see that structure.
All right. Let's see here. What changes would you recommend for the district?
Well, let's go back to that hiring and retaining teachers. I honestly, all year long, it's been in my mind, because that's the way I am. If there's an issue, I'm kind of like, I think it was Miss Reese that said that. But when I heard that there was this plan, and I think it's on the board agenda tonight that's being presented, about some additional money to retain our teachers. We have got great teachers. We have got dedicated teachers and administrators in this district, and we want to keep them. And I know that our salary is always compared to the districts around us. So I think that's a great start, a great step to do that, to let the teachers know that we want to keep them. We value the years of experience that they have. But that is a real issue with me, is the teachers, retaining teachers.
And are you okay with confidentiality? How are you
Yes.
with that? You don't like, okay.
Yes, I'm good with that. I mean, we have that with the board at Lehman Library also.
And what issues do you believe our district needs to address in its academic program and offerings?
Well, I was a French and Spanish teacher when I first started out years ago. And when I first came to North Little Rock, we had French, Spanish, and German offered here. And now we just have Spanish. So that's just a little dear to my heart, are the foreign languages. And I've seen that just dwindle over the years to now that we're down to just the Spanish. And we used to offer it some, I think at the elementaries, there were some rotations going on there. I don't think that happens anymore. So that's one specific thing that comes off the top of my head there. I think we have a lot of good things that we're offering. I know that the COE has been great over there at the high school. And we have students in in that program that are training for different areas that we haven't been able to address in the past, and that is filling that need there. I hope that our budget is geared to that. I mean, I'm all about budget too. I mean, that's one of the things that the board has to do is stay on top of that budget, and our budget has to match what our goals are. We have to make sure that we're spending money on the things that are important to us, that we're trying to accomplish and achieve. So we always have to take a look at that. I know we get monies from local and state and the federal. We also have grants that come. Certain monies have to be spent on certain things. And then we're accountable to that entity that we get that money from. But we have to, and that's good, you have to be accountable for that. But we're also accountable for how the money is spent, how the money that we control is spent. And it has to match up with our academic performance, because that is a drive of ours. We have to have that academic performance and attract our students and our families.
Thank you.
Will your personal and professional commitments allow you to attend monthly meetings which are held the first and third Thursday of each month and typically last 2 hours?
Yes, there would be no conflicts
Okay.
with that.
Okay, and then the second part of my question is just all the competing interest, the interest of the teachers, interest of the students, extracurricular, academics, all that. How do you,
Well, I know the first thing that people talk about is football and basketball and baseball, but academics, that's the priority. The academics are the priority. And I know that we have a lot of seniors every year. We have thousands of dollars in scholarships that come to our seniors every year that we should be touting and getting up on the mountaintops and shouting about that. We have a lot of programs that at the high school. I know we have the Med Pro program, although sadly, I think I heard the other day that I think we've got vacancies in the Med Pro program, but I know they do HOSA, and they get a lot of awards with HOSA. Our ROTC program, junior ROTC program, they get a lot of awards. We have the math Olympics and all those programs that they do. Those are important. Those are extremely important. Those are important to parents. So that would be my priority before the sports, although sports are good for uniting a community, and that's the history and tradition of North Little Rock. We have a great pride in our community, and the sports help carry that. So you can't leave that too far to the side, because it does ground us all together. And we did have some championships. So that always helps.
Well, we're down to me.
Okay.
So as we consider you for this position, what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, I've taught in North Little Rock for nearly 30 years. I've lived in North Little Rock for nearly 30 years. I love North Little Rock. I love the people in North Little Rock. And they told me when we first came here, well, it's a city, but it's like a small town. And it took me a while, but they were proved right. I mean, I'm from a small town, so I know. So I love that about North Little Rock, because you have the city, but it's really like a small town. And I don't cross the river if I don't have to. I like to stay in North Little Rock with my business, my money, to the businesses here. But I want this district to succeed. I want this district to stand out. I want this district to be a district of excellence that becomes that school that everybody wants to go to. So that's me.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McLean.
And
Hey, Mr. McCormick, while we're waiting on the next one, what do you think about our town? You came from Louisiana. Can you give us any
I love it
insight?
here. I think
Yeah.
she's right too about being small town. I
Yeah.
found it's just concentric circles of people who know each other. and
Yeah.
those guys like
It's always nice to hear someone else's point of view, though, because I mean, Dr. P, you know, he's not a North Little Rock native. You know, he's from the north, and we don't hold him against.
I've been converted. I've been converted.
It just takes one good home cooked meal.
Yeah.
well, Ms. Kavanaugh sent us an email and she's not attending. So therefore, there's no need in pulling another number. There's only one candidate left.
Okay.
Mr. Coates.
Welcome, Mr. Coates.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
To Madam President and the superintendent and the board. Tell you something about myself. Again, my name is Robert Coates. I have a passion for education. I am an advocate for students, and I also am what I consider a lifelong learner. I'm a resident of Zone 6. It's an opportunity for me to give back in this particular position on the board, to give back and also to serve my community. North Little Rock has made a great investment in me. I started out in the North Little Rock School District in the 3rd grade at North Heights Elementary many years ago. And I have 4 children who have graduated from the North Little Rock School District. It's also good to see Sister Dot Williams. I remember back at Ridge Road, I was in her in-school suspension class years ago when she was out in the portable. She had a portable trailer at that time. And she also filled in for my 8th grade English teacher, Mr. Donnell James, at that time. And so I remember that fact that she was a disciplinarian, which actually helped me continue to strive in the area of education. Currently, my current role as an educator, I am an assistant professor at University of Arkansas Pulaski Tech. Currently, I am attending University of Arkansas Fayetteville, pursuing a degree in higher education. I work with a group of educators. My previous role, I worked at Arkansas Department of Ed in the area of special education. And I have a great respect for those students with disabilities and a passion for students with disabilities. Currently, I am involved with several different boards which kind of tie into education. One of them is the Volunteer in Public Schools with the Little Rock School District. Another one, I participate with a group of clergy that go around to schools in Pulaski County and also schools in Little Rock School District, reading to students K through 5, entitled Story Time with the Pastor. So I get an opportunity to not only read to those elementary students, but also mentor them with my presence and encouraging words. Basically, I just enjoy working with students. I have a student-first philosophy, and I'll talk about that at a later time. But it's just, you know, a joy actually to be here and then have an opportunity to possibly serve on this particular board with North Rock School District. Again, I say the district itself has invested in me because this is where I received my education. So.
Okay, 2-part question.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your experiences within the school district and give me 2 to 3 examples within the last 2 months.
Okay. It's been a minute since I actually have experienced an opportunity to work with the district, but I have noticed some initiatives that the district is working on, like the what you held a few weeks ago, the teacher appreciation, saluting those teachers who again put students first and recognizing them for their hard work. I did notice that the district is going through some restructuring, and also I read up on some safety initiatives that the district plans to do in the future.
Okay. Second part of that question would be, what experiences and assets would you bring to the school board?
Okay. Assets that I would bring is my previous experience in education, or my current experience in education. I believe I will bring some knowledge, skills, and ability to the district, and also the opportunity to to actually collaborate and communicate with board members and the other stakeholders, which are the parents, to help make the district a better place for all students.
Mr. Steele, before you start, so I have a follow-up question, just for clarity. So you're with the Pulaski Tech,
Yes, I am. I'm a faculty member. That's correct.
so effectively you can come work for us as a teacher, that's what I'm hearing. Just trying to recruit.
All right.
What was that one issue that, where you said, hey, this is the time I'm gonna go for it?
That one issue was, again, my passion for education and my experience with the district as far as my children, all of them now are graduates from the district, and my own personal experience, just wanting to make a difference, basically just want to make a difference.
So you went to actually North Little Rock?
Yes, sir.
Schools?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I heard you say
Graduated in
you were 4
1991.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What should be the relationship between the superintendent and the board?
Okay. It should be a good working relationship because both the superintendent and the board are responsible for the district at large. And not only responsible for the district at large, you're responsible for student success.
Thank you.
Okay.
What changes would you recommend in the district?
Changes basically that I would recommend is continuous improvement on communication, constant communication, collaboration, and also implementation. I'm big on assessment, and assessment is one of those things to help improve student success. So I think there should be continuous communication, collaboration, and once you get that that assessment data, implementation to make the district better for everybody involved.
Do you have any issues with confidentiality?
No, ma'am, not at all.
And what issues do you believe our district needs to address in its academic program and offerings?
Okay. Academic program would be including data analytics. That's one of the hot areas today. I teach accounting, so in my area, data analytics is important. Another opportunity would be continue providing college days and career fairs for students to decide which direction they would like to go after they leave high school. Career readiness.
Thank you.
Will your personal and professional commitments allow you to attend monthly meetings, which are held the first and third Thursdays each month, and they typically last 2 hours?
No, it would not. I may have a schedule conflict, I think, in the month of August, but outside of August, no, ma'am.
And the question that I had about competing interest with all the different needs and stuff, what rises to the top for you?
What rises to the top is the students, okay? We want to make sure that the students are first. The district exists because of the students. The students are priority. So no matter what category it falls in, it needs to be student-centered. From faculty to support staff to administration, it all needs to be student-centered.
Thank you.
So I know you've heard, when you get to me,
Okay.
as we consider you for the position, what sets you apart from the other candidates?
I believe what sets me apart from the other candidates is the student-first philosophy. And basically what I mean by that is to be available for the students, celebrate the students' success, offer support for the students through what I consider tough times, guide the students through their educational journey, provide knowledge, provide wisdom, provide lifelong learning skills for those students, and recognize that each student has a story. Each student may have a struggle. Some students may need some additional help along the way. And I think if we do that and we provide the help that students need, the support for administration and the superintendent, the support for faculty, and the support for the support staff, each student is helped in real time, and then we're helping one student at a time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
All righty.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr. President.
President,
We have,
just taking notes here, and since he's here, Mr. McCormick didn't get your question.
oh yeah, he didn't.
Confidentiality. Outside of mandatory reporting, I have no problem with confidentiality.
And I didn't want to keep that to myself.
Thank you.
Well, I kind
Thank
of
you.
just thought about it towards the end. I was like, it's not on here, but it needs to be asked, but thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All four, wonderful. This is going to be a tough decision. Know that it's going to be a tough decision. Also know that the position is until November. You have to be reelected, whomever gets the position. And so those that may not get selected tonight, you have that opportunity to run for the office in November, where the community will select you and you won't have to answer to these hard questions that we threw at you. Okay. All righty. Executive closed session per North Florida School District Policy 1.14A stating that private or closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment, if requested by the parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for vote of the membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106.2C1 states the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. Please join me in executive closed session to discuss the appointment of a public official.
Okay.
We are back in session. Just as a reminder, the other candidates in July is when you would file your paperwork to run for office in November. So just wanted to put that on your mind. And I'm not sure the exact day of when it starts, but normally you can start petitioning in May. So contact the county clerk's office for the exact dates of when you need to get your signatures and then turn in your paperwork for the election for November, to get your name on the ballot for November, okay? All right,
And before that, real quick, everybody was great.
yes.
North Little Rock is privileged to have you all.
And please keep working in the district.
Okay. Ms.
Mr.
Madam President, I so move that we appoint the Zone 6 Board of Education member Valerie McLean.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that we appoint Ms. Valerie McLean. And I'm sorry, I'll get your name correct. I chopped it up. I'm so sorry. That's just me. For the Zone 6 position, which, there can be no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
None.
The ayes have it, and welcome. We need, our next board meeting is Thursday, November, Jesus,
19th.
where I am, May 19th. It is Thursday, May 19th. So between in the morning and May 19th, we need for you to be sworn in, the oath, and that can be done at the county clerk's office, and turn in your financial statement. And
Just
then
walk in
we
and
will
ask
see,
them for it. They'll give it to you, fill it out.
yeah, they'll give it to you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
You can download it too. You might want to download it and look at it before you go.
To have it filled out. And so we will see you on the 19th. All righty, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'll entertain a motion to go home.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to amend the agenda.
Yeah.
We still need to discuss the lawsuit regarding former superintendent. We have to make a decision because Jay Beckett sent things over, and we have to discuss these in open.
I thought he was supposed to come back with the findings after he discussed it with everybody.
So he sent an email.
I got the email.
He was polled, which he shouldn't have been doing. He shouldn't have done that. So we have to discuss if we are going to offer a settlement, go against legal advice and do so, because it was filed to be dismissed. Or are we going to allow the legal team to do what they were hired to do?
And I have a statement in regard to that.
Or is this, do we need to just, are we talking about this out here, or
We have to. It has to be in the open. We cannot do an executive session.
No, we can't do an executive session. I knew that. That was the reason why he called everyone individually, because we can't discuss it together in private.
So according to ASBA attorneys, he should have never called us individually.
So,
That's what I was told for him to do from ASBA.
so,
Go ahead.
no, I just want to say, I'm not sure, without this being on the agenda, that it's a
Yeah,
topic.
it's not on the agenda.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
If-
not.
So
I
there have
just
to be a
motioned.
motion, yeah.
She just made a motion to add it to the agenda.
Second.
It's been, it has been moved and properly second that we add the discussion of the, Ackland lawsuit. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I have questions. I want clarification, I guess is what because I, have not talked to him further, Mr. Beckett. And so I don't know, should we talk about that now or should we wait till later because I hadn't talked to him, or I'm confused.
Well,
what do I need to do?
There's a motion on the floor to add it to the agenda, and it was properly second. So once it's on the agenda, then we can discuss it. So
Well-
I'll ask again. Let's do to add
Question.
it to the agenda. Roll call.
Question. But I think that's a good point that's been brought up. I think we should have legal counsel and all. We should have the person we're paying quite a bit of money to come and explain everything. And also the public should have the opportunity. If it's going to be discussed during a public board meeting, the public should have the opportunity to know and for it to be on the agenda. And so they would have the opportunity to attend as well.
So let's do a roll call vote to add it to the agenda.
Dr. Rose,
No.
Ms. Dorothy Williams.
She took a phone call.
Okay. Ms. Person West. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I didn't say anything yet. I have some questions because I haven't talked to him.
So do you want to talk about it tonight, or you want to wait till we have some legal?
He's not here for me to ask, and I haven't got him on the phone. So I'm gonna say no because I have questions,
Okay,
and I need to talk to him. And I got the email and I read it. I just hadn't talked to him, and I didn't respond back. But I had questions written down that I.
So it'd be no.
Ms. Temple.
Yes.
Seen all the emails.
Okay. Mr. Steele.
No.
Mrs. Walkum.
Yes.
Miss Dorothy, I'm sorry you stepped out.
What are we voting for?
Whether or not we want to talk about that tonight, or we want to,
No?
so it'd be no. So the motion is defeated.
Okay, very good.
Huh?
I said, okay, very good.
Right,
All
because we need to set a time that we can, as a board,
Yeah.
which it can be public, but we need to get some food for thought about what we're doing.
I'm totally,
And after we've had a total consultation with our lawyer,
that's my thing.
then Mr. Beckett will he will be communicating with us, and then we can have a better answer as to yay or nay. And I think that consideration should be given to us as a board member. I'm not gonna make a decision to talk about what we're gonna do tonight, and I haven't heard thoroughly from Jay Beckett. We've only gotten one information from him. So please, have patience. Until we answer on his last one, then maybe we'll have something, we can go forward. Please do that. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, well, I have a comment, please.
Okay.
All right. The School Board of Education has tasked the superintendent to hold the district accountable, but the board has to hold itself accountable. And something happened this week that really discouraged me. We had a school board member who stepped out of their lane. The person took it upon themselves to call the school district attorney and interject themselves into the legal matter that we as a board had given to the attorney to handle. Our attorney had advised us that the case could be defended. He filed last week to have the case dismissed. So at this point, we do not even know if there will be a court case. But some board members think the case should be settled. This lawsuit involves a friend of the board members. I am not aware of other legal cases that the board members feel they need to direct the outcome. I thought that as board members, we were to represent the district and not look out for friends. These types of behavior cause me to feel like I'm wasting my time aiming for transparent, ethical behavior within all levels of the district. I feel weary of the situational ethics that too often present themselves. If we're doing this on the board, how can we expect better from people, from anyone else in the district? There's a whole lot more that I could say, but I hope this is enough to give all of us pause before we step out of our lanes. Thank you.
And Madam President,
Yes.
we get the final vote that we can close so that we can go into our
I was,
workshop? Okay. If nothing else is to be said.
I need a motion to adjourn to go into workshop.
Madam President, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It is, it's been properly moved that we adjourn and go into workshop.
Madam President?
Yes.
I have a quick question while he's setting up. What time of day is this? From
That
when
would
to
be
when?
all day. It would be 8:30 to 2:30, Mr. Steele, for the retreat.
Okay.
Okay, Madam President, members of our Board of Education, thank you for having us for our board workshop. We've got 4 items, quick items. The first item is our draft recruitment and retention plan, and my colleague, Mr. Smith, will present the highlights of our proposal as information.
Dr. Paluski, Madam President, members of the board, thank you for having me this evening. What I am presenting before you is stage 4 of our strategic compensation plan for this year. So if you will recall, earlier in the year, we presented a plan in which we wanted to offer a raise, a bonus, COVID-19 pay, and also a recruitment and retention plan to exist beyond this year. What you are seeing is the level 4 of that plan, and so this is the last piece of that puzzle. And so I've brought that to you this evening for your consideration and your vote at the next board meeting. What you can read in the overview is our justification. This plan has been presented not only to the Department of Ed and signed off on for the content of it, but it has also been presented to our attorney. And so both have signed and approved that this is okay to be brought to you. So our goals of this plan is to retain experienced North Little Rock School District educators that the district has trained and prepared to teach our students. It's also to recruit and retain highly qualified staff, especially in high needs areas, and also to recruit and retain a diverse workforce. So if the board will follow me to the second page, under specifications, this is all the specifics of the plan as it relates to money, the different criteria that is required, and how this money will be paid. ESSER funds, ESSER 3 specifically is going to be funding this recruitment and retention plan, and it will be paid out over the 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024 fiscal years. It will be in the total amount of $6,000 for every employee. It will be paid in 4 tiers: December of 2022, June of 2023, December of 2023, and June of 2024. The requirement for receipt of this additional recruitment retention compensation will be based on a 95% attendance rate on the employee's total contracted days as defined by the NLRSD employment contract. Professional business, personal leave, FMLA, bereavement leave, vacation, and jury duty will not be factored into the attendance calculation. All payments are based on the period of work to the qualifying date. The qualifying dates are under the third set of bullets, and you will see December 1, 2022, June 5th, 2023, December 1, 2023, and June 5th of 2024. And if the board will notice on the 2 dates that are notated in June, that is the retention piece. It is also contingent upon a signed contract for the next fiscal year. Payments will be made on a regularly scheduled payroll. Finance is presented to the board. That's for tax purposes and shelters our employees from additional taxes. And so that's why that decision is made. And then North Little Rock School District will reserve the right to collect funds equivalent to the amount awarded under the NLRSD recruitment and retention resolution to receive employees when terms of the resolution are breached. And so the different pieces are under evaluation are going to be data that is collected, which is required under a recruitment and retention plan as defined under the ESSER guidelines. And if you'll notice on the third page, that is where the referenced info comes from our ESSER eligible uses of funds document. At this time, I think I hit the highlights. If the board has any questions, I'll do my best to answer them for you.
Ms. West, any questions?
I do not have any questions at this time.
Ms. Wonkum?
Nope, read it.
Ms. Williams?
I just underlined some stuff, but he answered it. That's all.
Ms. Temple?
Yes. When you said that the attendance, it factored out personal, business, FMLA, bereavement, what's left? I mean, I'm
So sick is not there. If you'll notice, sick is not there. Military is not there. There are a couple other things that take away from basically what we feel as a district is being abused is our sick leave policies. There are obviously things that are life events that would qualify under FMLA. We had a discussion both with the LPPC and the CPPC already. And so the decision was made to include FMLA within that, but not include sick leave because we feel that that policy is being abused by the way it's written at the moment. And we will be working on that next year to bring you guys something that is more constraining.
okay. And then, I don't know why, you probably had already told us this before, but for some reason I thought we were focusing on teachers with this, but we're doing the whole, everybody, any employee in the district.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is the sick leave and absenteeism, does that go together? I know Ms. Williams has been very concerned about that, and the number of substitute teachers we're having to call in and the amount that's costing the district. What's the plan for that?
Yes, sir. So part of that plan is this.
Would that be
part
that's
of
going to
this?
address specifically that issue?
Yes, sir. I mean, this is directly correlated to attendance, and we're asking individuals to be at work. We're asking individuals to show up to educate our kids and provide the services that they need on both sides of the house. And so we need highly qualified employees at work. We do look at the data. Dr. Paluski and exec team, we do look at the data in regards to where our attendance is, pretty much monthly or every other month. And we've noticed trends. It's difficult to describe that those trends can be compared to a pre-COVID situation because COVID has changed everything.
Right.
But now we are starting to get in what I would describe as the third year of COVID, where the data is good and we're tracking that information. We are getting better. We think this is going to be an encouragement to do even better next fiscal year.
Without going into the very obvious, how do you abuse the sick leave? What are you seeing that's really troubling that we can't get a handle on? Because I've been hearing this discussed for a long time.
Yes, sir. So what we see is we see a lot of Mondays and Fridays. That's a very
Okay.
simplistic way of saying
Okay.
it, but whenever we look at the data, there are high numbers on those days. And we want sick leave as a benefit. We provide that to our employees that need it, but it is for sick time. That is the way our policy is defined. If you are not on FMLA, we do not send out FMLA paperwork, but until there is a 3-day absence or we notice a pattern. By the time somebody gets to that pattern, by the way our policy is defined, it's really a 6-week pattern. So if we've noticed that somebody is taken off every Monday for 6 weeks, that then enacts the
Good.
process out of my office.
Right.
Does that help?
Very much so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is the licensed personnel the same way, like when we look at, the teachers and stuff, requirements for, that's on retention, but when I was reading your packet, and you may not have gotten there, I was concerned about the 245 days that you say they're gonna get plus a extra vacation day with pay. They get 1 day every month for 12 days, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, some of the classified people don't Well, I guess I'm going too far, 'cause I read about, like, if you have counselors, you giving them extra days, you know what I'm saying? And they don't even have students. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, you're speaking about extended contracts.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Extended. So why would you give them extra money and there's nobody in school and they don't have any students?
Because they set the
Well-
schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
I said, what?
They set the schedule for our students.
So we'll get that, we'll get to the high school counselor as far as the job tasks go, in item number 4 in this, because they're
Okay.
asking for an extension. But yes, ma'am, working at the high school level and working at North Little Rock High School, I can speak that the master schedule is very involved, with all the different course
Yeah,
offerings.
that's the last sheet on everybody needs stipends. Okay, I done read everything. I was going too fast.
That's okay.
Towards the end of the meeting already.
I had a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
She's ready to go home, sorry.
Approximately, what would 95% attendance be? About how many sick days?
Yes, ma'am. So for a 190-day contract, which is where our teachers sit, 19 is 10%, so divide that by 2, be 8.5. No, 9.5, excuse me.
Days that they can miss and
Yes, ma'am.
still receive it?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
It's still being late.
And, I'm sorry, I'm a visual learner. If, I'm picturing, so if a person starts in August, and let's say they leave in January, they would get potentially one stipend or one payment?
Yes, ma'am. So if they work through that December qualifying date, and the way we have written this is much like we wrote the COVID pay and the bonus as well. We like to stick to that language. If somebody's hired in November and they meet the criteria, it's prorated based on the amount of contract missed versus the amount worked.
But I mean, if somebody's already here, you're already here, and then you decide to leave in January,
You will garner that first payment, yes.
you still would get something for the time that you were here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Any other questions?
That seems to contradict our need to keep people here. I mean, the incentive to stay and work, I mean, you'd want them to finish out their contract, wouldn't you?
Yes, ma'am. So there are other mechanisms in place. Arkansas state law dictates that if you have signed a contract with a school district, then you cannot vacate to go work for another educational entity unless the superintendent releases you. So it's a case-by-case basis, but once you're locked in for that physical year, you can't, we can't have a teacher that says, I'm resigning and then I'm gonna go work for Little Rock without Dr. Paluski actually releasing them. There are legal mechanisms in place that prevent that. That is why the June dates and the language in June is crafted the way it is, because it garners a commitment for the next physical year.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I got the sheet.
No
I
further
got the
questions?
sheet. It's the
Okay.
last one. I was reading too fast, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
But since
So-
you did explain that to me though.
So we're down to the next.
Are you ready to go to the next one? Okay, sure. Thank you. The next item is the proposed NLR 13 license bereavement proposal.
Okay.
So right whenever I began my tenure, there was bereavement that was brought to the board for the classified side of the house. That policy was adjusted. It has been in debate since then on the license side of the house, and this LPPC has gotten to it this fiscal year. And so this is the same policy as far as the classified side of the house has. And so we want to be equivalent on both sides, but we want to provide that benefit. We have checked with finance. It's something that we can afford based on the trend data. And so we would like to offer the bereavement leave to both sides of the house. And so we've had the discussion. LPPC has in fact voted this through. This is just an information item tonight, but this would create a matching on both sides of the house, so all of our employees have the same access to bereavement. Are there any questions at this time?
Mr. Steele?
No question.
Ms. Temple?
I was a little bit confused when I read this. What is the total bereavement you can get in a year?
3.
3. So if I take off, like they said, 4 for, a faculty member or something, does that cut my 3 down to 2.5?
Yes, ma'am. So if it's, the way the language reads at the end is if you take 4, you're allowed to take 4 hours to go to attend the funeral of a fellow regular employee or retiree of the district, that would garner a half of a day of bereavement from your allotment.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's how I read it. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that was
Ms.
nice.
Williams?
No, no questions.
Ms. Wonkum?
Is it my understanding that we did not have a bereavement policy?
For the license side of the house, yes, ma'am.
That is just asinine to me.
We were working on it for, like I said, since I've gotten here about that, that's been a conversation, and we've just, you can look back on the minutes, and we have been discussing it for a year and a half.
We're emerging from COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
Myself, I've buried 4 family members in the last 6 months. Wow. Okay.
Ms. West?
I have no questions.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
I do have, Madam President, I do have one quick question. That you mentioned that, you said retired employee, current employee.
It says employees, it's the very last
I'm trying
line.
to yeah,
Employees
okay,
are
where's that?
allowed to take up to 4 hours from their yearly allotted bereavement leave to attend the funeral of a fellow regular employee or retiree of the district, provided such absence from duty will not interfere with normal operations of the district.
I hate to say this, but we've had a few. What about a student that attended the district?
This policy does not account for that by its language.
That'd be something we need to consider. Used to be kind of unheard of, but not anymore.
I think that's a valid point, Mr. Steele. 'Cause you're talking about.
I know I've been to some. I know superintendent has
Yes, sir.
been to some as well.
I think that's
didn't
good
think about
feedback.
that.
You're talking about employees leaving because the student service is during
Right.
that day.
I would just urge the board, and this is just with you saying that, sir, and it popping into my head. I'm trying to garner in my mind how you would allow some individuals to take off and some not, and then still conduct regular school operations.
That would be the other side of it.
That would be-
is If you
Yeah,
had so many
sure.
substitutes out,
Sure.
I mean, on the operation side, which is,
It's true.
I think we could do some, just let us think through that.
Yeah, you
And,
guys-
I mean, normally, I guess in my own experience, we've always worked with that particular school to try to make some accommodations. If central office staff would go, as an example, to, support. I'll give you a very good example. Crestwood Elementary School, remember, we lost a student due to drowning. That entire 3rd grade team, I believe, or 4th grade team was at that service during the day. I think we supported them so they could be a part of that, but it's a valid question, and we'll do a little bit of research, but that's how I would think how we've handled it, certainly since I've been here, to accommodate the school.
Makes sense. All right. Next.
Okay, the next item up is proposed policy NLR3, licensed personnel sign-in, sign-out procedures. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, thank you. So if everybody will look at the current language, which is in black, and the red language is our draft, which has been passed through the LPPC. This also matches our classified policy in regards to sign-in, sign-out procedures. The issue we were having with this is with our safety and security concerns and with our payroll functions. The policy is antiquated as it currently exists because it says that there's to be the posting of the time or use of a time clock shall not be part of this procedure. Really, in this day and age, using paper and pencil, we've had situations where we need to know how many individuals are in our high school at any given time, and us trying to do that through a paper method is not feasible. And so this has been drafted. I like this because it is purposely vague, but it gives the district the opportunity to come up with processes and procedures that are not only gonna protect us physically, but it's also for safety and security, which is Dr. Paluski's #1 push. And so Chief Inks is working on these things, but this policy is going to allow him to put some systems in place where it's beneficial for everybody involved.
When I saw this, I was concerned. You talked about teachers as they walk in the buildings, signing in.
Yes, ma'am. The way it exists right now, I believe, is it's an initial sheet. The initial next to their name.
Yeah, in my day, we used to come in every day, initial, and you initial going out. So we have not been doing that for years. We just been letting people come in and out.
No, ma'am. We are still doing that. That's what we are doing. We need something that is more electronic, I guess is the best way to say it. Our head principal at the high school, if somebody has second period prep and they've ran to Kroger to grab their lunch, they need to know that that individual is out of the building based on our electronic systems.
Oh, okay, you gotta check in, check out.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. There will be
In lieu of
some,
just signing in the morning and you sign out in the evening, but every time you hit that door, you're supposed to indicate.
yes, ma'am. There are some very, if you want to speak, there's some very good plans coming down the pipeline.
Sure, and there's two sides of this. One is we know that attendance is tied to payroll, so we need to verify that that person is there coming in, for their daily job. But then the other thing, as we've uncovered, is the making sure that if you just leave, like you said, second period, you got to run to the post office. We just want to make sure that we know who's in the building or who's out of the building, so that if we have to go into a lockdown or anything else, that's all. That's
I know.
the
Security.
second side of it.
That's
Yep.
good. And
Yep.
something could happen to a teacher going out to eat.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to clarify it how it would work.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Wonkum?
So for clarification, we're gonna start using clock in and clock out machines or some sort of an electronic clock in, clock out?
So that is the goal, but what this policy does is it does not create a situation where we can't do that anymore.
Got it. Okay. So also in here, it says where the draft, it says indicate their presence. So one, how do they do that? I'm assuming electronic. To the expectation, are we setting that expectation of what is expected of the individuals to be on campus, when they can leave, when they cannot leave, during a lockdown procedure, what is the protocol, things of that nature, and then procedures and what all is that involved. So we're not gonna just throw this policy out there and be like, okay, see y'all later. We're gonna actually give them some autonomy to it and what their expectations are going to be of this policy.
Well, let me just add to that. But we want to be consistent across, all of our. So it might look like simply just swiping your badge in, and we know you're in the building, and you're swiping your badge out. Raptor has some of this technology that might be able to tie to it as well. That we want to make it simple on our employees, but at the same time as accountable, but also to keep everybody safe.
So let me just ask a question to see, make sure, bouncing off of what Ms. Wonkum said, to just make sure I understand what this looks like. So, for example, she teaches second grade. So she said, okay, I don't have a class this period. I'm gonna run to Kroger and go grab some snacks. So she badges out, and I'm just using that as an example. She badges out. Something happens at the school where now we gotta account for everybody. So now we can go back and look and get a printout somewhere and say, okay, well, Ms. Wonkum was out of the building because she went to the store.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. I'm with you. Good stuff.
All right, no other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And the last and the final one is the proposed updated license policy 3.13. And specifically, this is on the, related to the head counseling. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So efficient, so efficient. Thank you.
members of the board. So this conversation was brought to LPPC. There has been a concern as far as the way our schools have grown and the amount of demand within our class scheduling, the workload placed on our head counselors at the individual school sites, that we had the conversation. If you look back historically, the last individual to be at the North Little Rock High School head counselor's position was on a 245. And so how that position became a 223 when the new individual took it over, I can't speak to that. That was before my time. But there is a historical data that it was a 245 position. And so the conversation came, both, I believe, to finance and my office. And the proper way to do this was for the individuals to make the request through LPPC and for us to bring it through the superintendent's office, and we have done that. And what you see before you is the final form of that. And so originally, originally what was being proposed is based on enrollment. The COE head counselor, the academy head counselor, and the sixth grade head counselor, because of their enrollment, would still stay at 223. The first recommendation consisted of the seventh, eighth counselor, because of enrollment and there's starting to be electives, being moved to a 240. Then the head counselor being a 245 because of the workload and the extensive master schedule work. All of that being said, LPPC had conversations with their prospective counselors, or was given that option. The middle school counselor came back and said that they did not want the increase. They said that there was not enough electives, there was not enough work for them to garner a 240. They wanted to stay on a 223. So that's how this came into fruition. What you will see behind is the historical data of what extra compensation has had to be awarded based on extra work that has existed beyond the 223 contract. So I apologize, I skipped one part on the first page. If you'll notice, increasing by 22 days is a $7,254 cost to the district. There has been more of a cost to that based on time that has been needed to work outside of the bounds of the normal contract. And so with this recommendation, there would be the expectation about this extra compensation would go away and it would live as a 245. And so you can see the historical data. I had a conversation with page 2, the $900. Apparently during that year, the work was garnered for free. The work was just done outside of the bounds of the individual's normal contract, and they did not request payment for that time spent outside of that.
Say that again, who did that?
So Ms. Leger, is my understanding, is time was not turned in for that year.
For what year?
The page, the $900 page.
It's
at
buried
20
in there, 2020.
6/30/20.
1920 fiscal year. So the ask is, after the communication and everything else, is that the NLRHS head counselor be moved to a 245-day contract. Again, I'd like to reiterate, the attempt is to equalize based on enrollment and need, but after having the conversation with the 7th, 8th counselor, they didn't feel that there was enough work. And so the adjustment is what the adjustment would be to 3.1.1, our extended contract language policy, and the highlighted areas are how the language of the policy would change. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. West,
Come back to me.
Ms. Wonkum?
I'm all for it. I think central office should take Ms. LeJay lunch once a month next year for working for free in 2020, personally. Aside from that, I do have a question that does not regard the counselors. I see the senior Army instructor is on a 245 day. Help me understand that.
And I'd to get more information, but having supervised ROTC, my hunch is there's a lot that's going on. Remember that this is a split position between us, we pay half of it, and the military pays half of it. So there are a lot of things that happen over the summer. There might be requirements on the military side, which would require the extended time.
Okay, but, again, I just don't understand because, I mean, if you don't have students here, I'm not seeing anything. But if you're military, I get you're military, but I would think that you're on military time, not school time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's, part of it is because we fund half of it, and then the military funds half of it, and then there's a lot of requirements on the military side through the summer. That's just based on my own experience.
I managed it as well. There's a lot of, so you have to take your inventory every year. So all of the inventory that's provided by the military through the ROTC 2 North Little Rock, all the rifles, all the boots, socks, everything that's distributed has to be inventoried. And then there's a lot of training as well that they go to. They have to garner, I want to say it's over 100 hours of training each
That's
summer.
required through the
Okay,
military.
very good.
Yes, Mr. Brown?
There are summer competitions for.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And they're multi-day, multiple competitions that they go to as well.
Okay, so my follow-up to that, with you making that comment, do they receive a stipend? Because I know football receives stipends and they have camps, and then we have band who has camp during the summer and multiple concerts after hours and weekends and whatnot. So do they receive a stipend as well? Okay.
Mr. Brown, can you help me out on that page?
He did.
She's
He
shaking,
just
yeah,
said
he's shaking his head, sorry, yes, okay, yeah, all right.
Ms.
Okay, you
Williams?
told me about why you gave the counselor at the high school additional 22 days.
That's the request, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's a request.
That's the request that's been brought to LPPC, been voted on, and now is being brought to you guys for approval.
Okay, cause first you gotta tell me why I heard what Ms. Walkham said. I wanna know about some time. We're giving days, we're giving folk days. I just want the accountability to the days. Why suddenly our enrollment haven't increased? Why would that give extra day? Huh?
Well, let me, if I can help it in here, and maybe explain
Don't
this.
help me.
Well, because of the work is happening in the summer, so we're already paying a stipend beyond, because she only has a contract for 220 days.
223.
223. But she's working over, and that's what, when we looked at it, I wanted to see the data. What's the justification? So we're almost paying, we're already paying with the extra stipend because of the work. This is just now just making that contract from 223 to.
It's
so
actually.
you won't have to pay that stipends anymore?
Correct.
Oh, that makes
Yes,
sense.
ma'am.
You should have told me.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'll do
So
better.
we're doing away with the stipend, but now she's got more days.
Okay, see, it doesn't matter. It's for the good of the students of this district. But I think it should have been more in detail when I see days increase. Tell me why. You know what I mean?
Yes,
but
ma'am.
You did good, Jacob.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Pulaski.
Ms.
Dr.
Wa-
Pulaski. Thank you.
Ms. West?
And no help from you. Thank you.
I was just gonna go back to,
With the paper.
going back to Ms. Leger, I guess I'm pronouncing it. Leger. Leger. Okay. So is this something that, since she provided the work, is this something that she's getting back pay for, or is this?
No,
something
she's
that
she's done the work. So what you're looking at is trend data
Okay.
of years that she's worked over the summer and what we've paid her outside of her contract.
Okay, gotcha.
So now we just really want to make this part of her contract.
Gotcha, okay. So I got you. Thank you.
Sure.
They're gonna take her lunch.
Okay, so essentially, you're making her salary, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Essentially, we're putting the days in her contract, and it's, from our calculations with fringe and everything else, it's fairly equivalent.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, what if, there's extra work outside of the 245? How does that?
That would be a conversation to be worked up through our processes. The way additional compensation works is that would need to be brought to the direct supervisor. That direct supervisor then would bring it to their prospective executive director. They would garner a blessing from HR and finance, and me and Brian present a collaborative front of making sure Dr.
So
Paluski
there
is
would be-
apprised of all
We
that.
would want to see, what's the justification for the request?
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Steele?
On the sheet you gave us here, at the 7th and 8th grade, that 1170, that's the number of students in both?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My question is not so much for you. I support the counselors. I think they're doing a good job. I still hear, though, Mr. Superintendent, not all of our kids are seeing their counselor. And I've heard that for years. I know the honor roll students, the high achievers, Ms. Hooper as well, they see the counselor multiple times. Work study, all that's great. But there should be, I think one of the applicants said tonight, what's the career plan? Everybody's not a traditional four-year college student. There are other opportunities, and I just want to make sure that we're providing that for our
Yes, sir.
kids
I agree.
in different areas.
I agree.
And if we are seeing each student, if they're 1170 between the 7th and 8th grade, is there documentation of that interaction? Because there used to be a law in the state of Arkansas where every counselor had to see every student.
Yeah, contact, where you've made contact, like what we do
But-
with seniors, like
Because
how
there's
many
a
times?
law, sometimes there's a way around the law. So what they would do is they get all the students in auditorium and say, well, we saw you. We talked about some things, and still then spend most of their time with higher achieving students. And so you get those students who need the direction, who need the help, and more information about alternative career path.
Sure.
Who don't see anyone.
And Mr. Steele, if I may, I think that's the big push of E4. I think the superintendent is pushing those career paths and programs so that kids garner an interest. And it's even going to help out the counselors be more direct and focused in regards to the type of advice and type of interest our kids find.
Very good.
Can I ask a question,
Sure.
Madam President? I see you have those on here. I'm concerned about, like at the high school, if you have a track coach, I'm not talking about the ladies, I'm talking about the guys, the boys. How effective, where does that money come from? I was looking on here, or is it because you're a coach already, that's just an extra job that you got to do?
Will you point
We
to where
looked
you're
at the sheet,
looking at?
It wasn't on there.
So what she and I just had a discussion about regarding the definition of the extended contract, everything's listed on here of what their days include. So on here it states football, basketball, and volleyball, but it does not include track. It does not include soccer.
Baseball.
Does baseball.
Yes, ma'am. Softball.
Chess,
Yes, ma'am.
swim, softball, yes. So I mean,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
not inclusive.
Yes, ma'am.
So her follow-up question is, where do they lie?
This is an inherited document, and we are making adjustments to it, but I do have a stipend committee, and Dr. Paluski does have a plan, and so we are working through those conversations to make sure that this is updated, correct, equal, fair, all the above.
See, the reason I'm asking this, we only had one kid to go to track meet from high school. And to me, that's a problem. That's not representative of the North Rock School District. And I thought perhaps funding that you need to pay an individual track coach, like you got a football coach, baseball, because when this parent talked to me, I felt it was so appalling. He said, well, we've been to 6 and it's only, he said, I just take my one child. Nobody else goes. And I think that that's a problem. That's why I'm saying, since we're talking money here now, is there a need, Dr. Paluski, to maybe hire an individual? I know we got girls track coach, they on point.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about if it's high school, and Dr. Paluski was talking about the 8,183 students, all students. Well, there are some folk who like to run track, but though it's not being done or handled properly. If they need a bus or to go somewhere, I'm bringing it before the parent coming in here and talk about it, but they've shared that with me, and while we were talking this, I thought maybe you, when you have a talk with the, you know, you all administrators, you all will look at that track program very strongly.
Yes, ma'am, I'll revisit that. It was, whenever I was here in the AP capacity, it was Coach Calvin. Coach Calvin did football in the spring and then track in the fall, I believe is how it
Well,
went.
whoever, you know,
Or
if
vice
you're doing
versa, I
football, how
apologize.
can you do
Right.
both? Maybe we need to just hire a coach
Well,
for that.
Yes, ma'am, we know it needs to be looked at, and
Okay.
we are looking at it.
All of it needs to be looked
Correct.
at. You know, we have, as you mentioned, and I was having this conversation just recently about, you know, there's other head coaches beyond these, right? And I think all that just needs to be looked at, you know, and to look at it to make sure that, you know, it's fair, there's, you know, fair compensation for the work.
That
That's
you're
been
doing.
done.
Correct.
Will that
And
come about in the audit?
they make some reference to it. That's one area that we've asked them to look into, but there's gonna be more work. What they didn't do is go down through what the next level is gonna be, is really looking at each one of it, but they do make reference to it.
See, these
To
guys
follow up.
from North Rock, they maybe be at the Olympics one day, track. I'm going to a university, and if you don't have any good, put it on your mind, okay?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Ms.
Madam
Markham,
President?
You had a question?
To piggyback on what you just said, Dorothy, same thing for golf. So not just track, but golf as well.
Uh-huh,
But
golf
yes.
also.
Baseball,
Yeah, we can, baseball's on my list,
Rugby?
golf, yep. Rugby, we don't have rugby, no rugby.
Mr. Steele?
Yes, I just want to say that's a great point, Dr. Williams, because that one young man was going to the Meet of Champs and will receive a scholarship. And I'm thankful that we had one coach that would just take the time out to make sure that he got there. And I think we should address this. And those who have history with this district, remember Coach Talley, who
Right.
assistant football coach, but coached track for many years without any additional compensation at all. So I'm glad to see that's being addressed.
Okay.
While it's being addressed, can you add quiz bowl and debate also? Just throwing that out there, because, that's academic.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Any more questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Smith.
Dr. Lewis.
Thank you.
There being nothing else on the agenda, we will see each other again on May the 17th. What time are we expected to be at the arena?
Graduation?
I will, 6 o'clock, Rhonda? Yeah, it starts at 7, I believe, the request, okay, she'll send out a communication, I'm thinking 6.
Rochelle, I got about
I
100
see you
kids.
Saturday, Doctor,
Put the
at
diploma in
Jordan
their
College.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
heard you speaking.
Zoe's
Alrighty.
class.
Congratulations. And they're gonna give Linda Robinson an honorary doctorate degree. Thought that was very nice.
Awesome.